Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Welcome to my August reading wrap up. Now the day that I'm filming this, it's actually only August 15th, but I decided to sit down and talk about the books I have already read this month today because first of all, it's already quite a lot of books, so might be a good call to split my August reading wrap up in half, but I might actually not be able to read a whole lot in the second half of August, so I'm not even sure if there is going to be a second reading wrap up for August because maybe I'm only going to be able to read one more book. Anyway, I thought I'd take advantage of the situation right here, right now, and film this reading wrap up. Now, I think I've already read 13 books in these 2 weeks of August. Let's talk about them. I started off the month with I Kissed Shara Wheeler, the latest release by Casey McQuiston, author of Red, White, and Royal Blue and One Last Stop. I have not read these other two books of her, even though I have them on my digital TBR. I might read them at some point, but now this actually turned out to be my first Casey McQuiston. This book, it actually did take me by surprise, let me tell you that, because I thought heading into this book that this would be your typical YA queer romance, but it turned out to be so much more than that, especially the first half of the book, because the first half, it almost had puzzle solving, treasure hunting of sorts vibe, because the girl that this entire book is about, Shara Wheeler, for the first half of the book, she's gone. She has disappeared. No one knows where she has gone and why she has gone, but she has left clues behind for the last 3 people she has kissed. Those include her boyfriend, the boy next door that's kind of obsessed with her, and her academic rival in school, a girl named Chloe, who's the protagonist, the actual protagonist of the story. She has left clues behind for each and all of them to figure out where she is now and what she has done and why she has disappeared. So these 3 very unlikely characters have to work together to figure this one out, to figure out where Shara is, why she has gone away. So that part, I did definitely not expect heading into this book that there would be a, well, as I just said, treasure hunting of sorts, with Shara being the treasure at the end of the map, so to say, vibe to this book. Didn't expect that at all, and I really enjoyed that because I like my clues and solving them, and then figuring out the path this other person had laid for them. Anyway, so I really enjoyed that part of the book. Shara, I don't know if it's actually halfway point, but I remember it to be roughly the halfway point. Shara, they find her, she comes to school again, etc. But that's obviously not where the book stops if it's only the halfway point. The story kept continuing, not in a bad way that I felt it kept dragging on, but we kept reaching points where I thought, oh yeah, this is good, this is a good wrap-up point, but then something else kept happening and something else kept happening. I was taken by surprise by this book, had a good time. Also, one more thing I want to mention about this book, this reads very much like a book of its time. This reads very much like a book of the years 2020 to 2022. There are so many references being made to things that are popular right now, I guess, such as TikTok or iced matcha lattes with 2 pumps of vanilla syrup and stuff like that, that it is kind of my goal to read this book again and tap all the times that references like that are being made. But then again, if you read the book in 5 years, all of these things will probably not be cool and hip anymore. So that's just going to be a fun time, I think, going through this again and tabbing all the times that cool 2022 references are being made. Anyway, the I don't think chronologically next book I read this month, but just one of the books I also read this month was The Cartographers. I already made a very long video about this book, talking about it and my feelings and my theories and the plot, etc. But that is a spoilery video though, so I'm just going to give you a non-spoilery little wrap-up of the book right here. So this is a magical realism, treasure hunting of sorts kind of book. This book stars Nell, a mid-30-year-old cartographer or ex-cartographer who discovers a seemingly insignificant map in her father's things after he has died. And she figures out that this map is actually anything but insignificant. It is very special, very unique, and a lot of dangerous people are after it. And she starts to figure out the backstory and the secret of this map, what it's all about, etc. And as I just said, magical realism comes into play at some point of the story. Now, I still enjoyed this book, but I would say there are especially 2 plot holes, so to say, that not just I, but apparently everyone who has read this book somewhat struggles with, because they are plot holes as to the motivation of characters doing what they do. There are major inconsistencies in that, and of course that was somewhat frustrating. I talk about it at length in that other video, trying to come up with theories to explain certain things, but I wasn't even able to like explain everything away. I just kind of shared my thoughts and my feelings about the book in this other video. So if you have read this, like I can still recommend you to read it per se, because I still somewhat had a good time with it. Definitely know that there is at least a certain kind of magic in this book, though. It's not like hardcore fantasy with all the things you could imagine, dragons, wizards, I don't know. There's just like one tiny bit of magic in it, but this tiny bit of magic is very important to this particular story about maps and everything. But if you're cool with that, and with me already warning you that with the motivation of certain characters, there are gonna be issues there, you can still give this one a go, and after you read it, you can watch my other video and you can share your thoughts and your feelings and your theories on the book in the comments down below, like of that other video, because that would be very interesting to hear some other people sharing how they perceive the book and such. I don't know. So that was The Cartographers. After that, I read Ellie Hazelwood's 3 novellas. Can we just take a moment to appreciate how much this woman is hustling? Because I think The Love Hypothesis only got released at the end of last year. I think we're talking November or something like that. And now in May, June, and July, 3 novellas of hers dropped. And now in August, her next book is gonna come out. Like, wow, she's really putting in the work, but might as well because she's super popular right now. So I get it. Anyway, so these 3 novellas, they're each about 150 pages long. I believe in January 2023, these are going to come out as one book, a 3-in-1 kind of situation. These 3 novellas are not per se connected, but they are about a group of friends, and in each of these stories, references are being made to the other friends and their stories, but you don't have to read them in any particular order or know about the friends to understand what's going on, basically, because I just so happen to read them in the exact reverse order of their being published, because they got published, I think, in the order of Under One Roof, Stuck With You, and Below Zero, and I read them Below Zero, Stuck With You, and Under One Roof. Not because I planned it like that, but because that was the order in which they became available to me on Libby. So it just happened like that, but I was still able to keep up with each of the plots. So these 3 novellas each follow one out of 3 friends. They all got their PhDs in engineering, I think, but now they all like move to different places for their jobs, and they all become entangled in a certain love situation. Now, Under One Roof, let's just do it chronologically in order of publishing. Under One Roof is about Mara, who has to move into this house with this very handsome but very rude and just impossible dude is already living, because she has been made the heir of half of the house, but he's the owner of the other half of the house. But it's not like the house is actually split into 2, but it's just like one house, and they both have ownership rights now, and he's not moving out and she's not giving up her half of the house, so they move in together, and at first they clash all kinds of ways, but then because they are just so attracted to one another, things start happening. You get it. Stuck With You is about, I forgot her name, but she's working in New York City. Each of our 3 protagonists, especially the one out of Under One Roof and Stuck With You, they're very environmental friendly. They're all about recycling and stuff like that. Our protagonist in our second story is even like an ecological engineer or something like that. I don't know. So she's all about saving the world, and she works in this one New York high-rise where there are a lot of other companies in it as well. Also like the nemesis company, basically, of the company where she works at, that's all about saving the world. Now this other company doesn't care about saving the world at all, and then she meets this very cute guy just like down in the street at one point, and only then like later she figures out that he's working for this other company. But by that time sparks are already flying, so it gets complicated. That's basically the plot of Stuck With You. And in Below Zero, we follow the friend who starts working at NASA first in Texas, but then she also like moves to Norway to do some research there, and she starts having something with like a senior scientist at NASA. We say senior because like he's higher up and he's already been there for like a really long time, but not senior as in he's older, because he's only, I don't know, 23 or something like that, but because he's a freaking genius, he's already like the boss of the entire thing. But as in each of these stories, there's like a misunderstanding at some point, so suddenly she hates him, but then they're forced to work together again. Each of the story, also like compared to The Love Hypothesis, obviously they're written by the same author, so duh, but they're all pretty much the same. I really enjoyed all of them. The vibes and the dynamics of the 2 characters in each of them are very much the same in all of them, with the dudes always being super big and tall and huge and muscular, etc., and the women being tiny and petite and blah blah blah. And there's always the same component of misunderstanding happening at some point, which turns the girl off the guy for at least some period of time, and only in the end, once they like talk about everything and things start getting revealed, they realize how this has been a misunderstanding all along, and the guy is actually not a bad guy after all, and then it's happily ever after. I really enjoyed all three of them. I think I liked Stuck With You the best. And let's just say I'm really looking forward to Ellie Hazelwood's new release. It's dropping, I think, August 23rd. That is like in a couple of days at this point. Really, really looking forward to it. That's definitely a book I still plan on reading within the month of August, but I'm not going to be able to talk about it in this video, of course, as it's August 15th right now, and I have not yet read the book. It's not even released like yet. But even if I don't make another reading wrap-up video, because maybe I'm only going to manage to read this one book, I'm going to make like a separate video about it, because I'm sure I'm going to have feelings and opinions to share with you. I'm really looking forward to it because I liked the Love Hypothesis so much that I'm really looking forward to this book now. I did not like any of these novellas as much as the Love Hypothesis, but then of course we did not get to spend as much time with any of these characters as in her first actual novel, so it makes sense. But yeah, high hopes for the second book of hers. Next up, I read The Paris Apartment by Lucy Foley. I gave Lucy Foley another try. I listened to her guest list at the end of last month and I really, really did not like it because I hated every single one of the characters. But I was pleasantly surprised by The Paris Apartment. I surprised in the sense that I had feared that maybe the way Lucy Foley wrote her characters in the guest list, maybe that's just like her way of writing characters, like having all of them be super unlikable and stuff like that. But that's not the case in The Paris Apartment. Although, I mean, they're also not likable per se, but they are unlikable in two very different ways. I think in the guest list, these are just like all, especially the men in the guest list, are awful people who have done horrible, horrendous stuff. And so like you really feel an actual ick towards them. You're really turned off and disgusted by the characters in the guest list, I believe. In The Paris Apartment, I mean, none of these people are nice. They're all kind of rude and they're all kind of enigmatic, you know, they're keeping secrets and stuff. So in that sense, it's not like they're super nice and we love them. They're also kind of unlikable in a way, but in a way that you're completely fine with. It's more like that they're keeping secrets for whatever reason. You're trying to find out why they're keeping secrets, what their backstories are, how they're interrelated, etc. So The Paris Apartment is about, my god, why do I always forget the character's name, like the protagonist's name. Jess. Okay, The Paris Apartment is about Jess coming to Paris to stay in her half-brother's apartment because she needs to get out of London where she's from, and so she decides to come over and visit him, but he's gone. He was supposed to meet her there, etc., obviously let her into the apartment, but he's kind of disappeared. So she arrives in Paris and is pretty worried about him because he doesn't turn up for several days actually. So she starts investigating, talking to the other housemates, trying to figure out when have they last seen him, do they know what happened to him, what happened to him, is he in danger, where is he? She starts to figure out all of these questions. And she starts to dig deeper into the lives of the other housemates, what their secrets are, because everyone is being kind of rude to her, everyone is trying to not really help her out, except maybe one person, and they're all obviously keeping secrets from her. So she's trying to figure out what the hell is going on with this apartment building, and she starts to do so over the course of the story. Now this book is per se labeled as a thriller, I believe. It did not give me thriller vibes, because thrillers I expect to be, well, actually suspenseful, actual page turners that give me the thrills, that really keep me on my toes, that really keep me like flipping the pages to figure out what is going on, because I'm so into the story, it's so suspenseful. And that's not really the case with this book. It is in a way kind of slow paced. The book is also pretty long, I will say. It's like almost 450 pages long. I do believe you could have easily edited some of that out. You could have definitely made it shorter. I mean, all of the chapters are very short in itself, so you can read it pretty quickly, but still, I mean, 450 pages, and you could have definitely shortened that a bit, I believe. There was no need to make that almost 500 pages long, I believe. And yeah, as I just said, to me it was less a thriller and more of maybe a mystery, because obviously there is this mystery of what happened to her brother, where is he, what kind of things was he involved in, what is up with all these housemates, like with this Paris apartment, etc. There are all these questions that we're trying to answer, but did it ever get like truly suspenseful and thrilling? It did not for me. One of the twists and turns at the end I did also see coming, another one I did not, but it wasn't like a shocking surprise. I was like, oh, but it was more like, oh, okay, did not see this one coming. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, maybe think about this book less in terms of a thriller, but more in terms of a somewhat slow-paced mystery. And then you might have a good time with it. But as I just said, because I hated the first book of Lucy Foley's I listened to so much, I was now actually pleasantly surprised by the Paris apartment. So there you go. Now let's talk about the audiobooks I listened to. I, at the beginning of the month, listened to Fable and Namesake. This is a YA... Wait, is it fantasy? It's not fantasy, I believe, right? No, it's a YA duology. And the best way, and I think this is very accurate, so listen up, Fable is the perfect mixture of both Disney's Descendants and Six of Crows. That's honestly the perfect way to describe this book, I believe. So I hope you got these two references. Then you can definitely judge whether you will like this book or not, because this book starts out on a, well, island of the misfits somewhat, which gave me those Disney Descendants vibes. Our main protagonist, Fable, she has been left there 3 or 4 years ago by her father when she was only 13. He just left her on that island after her mother died and was like, you fight for yourself now, sweetie. Go make a living, kind of like, I'm going off again. Because her father is this like a super bad pirate king vibes. Like she's giving, well, Descendants vibes, because she's the daughter of the big bad guy. 100% Descendants vibes, right? Anyway, so she has to make a living on this island now. She's been living there for 4 years. She's fighting for herself. She's making a living diving to the bottom of the sea and like retrieving the certain kind of, what was it, like a certain kind of metal that's like really valuable, and everyone is buying it from her. So that's how she survived those 4 years. But she has been saving up money all this time to buy her passage on a ship to go back to the city where she's from, where she knows her father is, to kind of ask her like, Dad, what was that about? Why did you just leave me on this island? Like, what up? She just wants to confront her father. So within the first half of the first book, she manages to collect the money she needs to then get passage on the ship. And for the first half of the book, they, well, have to survive going to this other city because they have to fight the treacherous sea and also adversaries, etc. And then she arrives at the city, and, well, basically Daddy is one big disappointment, and it is not what she had hoped this meetup, this conversation to be. So for several reasons, she basically decides to join this group of misfits again, because she came over to this other city on this boat of this group of misfits. This is now giving the Six of Crows vibe. Everyone is like barely older than 17, if actually anyone is older than 17. And, well, yeah, they're all kind of crooks. They're all villains, but only because they have to be. They're actually good at heart. So you get the Six of Crows vibes. So she decides basically to join forces with the crew again, because like she's definitely done with her father. And then they go after this one big treasure that's supposed to solve all their problems, etc. The first book ends in quite a cliffhanger, and the second book picks up at that exact point. There's no time jump or anything, because I feel like that's often the case between like the first and the second book. There's sometimes a time jump even if the first book ends in a cliffhanger of sorts, but no, the second book starts off exactly where it left off in the first one, and the story continues. Obviously, I'm not going to talk that much about the second book, because first you should read the first book. I mean, the second book was a very fitting and good continuation of the story of the first half. More backstory, etc. about her family, her mother, her father, and everyone else gets revealed. In the second book, there are like other adversaries and other adventures, let's just say it like that, they have to undertake. I had a surprisingly good time with this. I did not per se expect to enjoy it. I mean, I had just heard a lot of book YouTubers consuming this duology and having a good time with it, but normally this YA pirate story kind of stuff is not up my alley. But it was available to me on audiobook, so I just decided to give it a go, and I actually had a good time with it. And once more, Disney Descendants, and Six of Crows. If you like these two things, you're gonna like Fable. If you don't like any of these two things, probably not. After that, I listened to Genuine Fraud. I had considered reading this book a long time, but then I never did it, and then it was available to me in audiobook, so I listened to it, and I'm glad that I only listened to it because I was actually not crazy about this book. As the title already tells you, this is kind of like about a person, a woman, frauding her way through life, taking on different people's personas, doing what she, at least I guess, thinks has to do to survive. I don't know, I was like really not that gripped by the story. This book is told in a reverse storyline. So we start at chapter 18 and then we go chapter 17, 16, 15. You get it. And after chapter 1, once we reach chapter 1, we have a time jump and we go back to chapter 19. So we start off at some point and then we learn how our main protagonist has ended up in this certain situation. We learn all this backstory and then we're in the present moment again and see how she solves that situation, basically. And we learn, as I just said, about how she has frauded her way through life, at least from a certain point onwards, how she has taken on different people's identities to fraud her way through life and all of that. And that per se, I guess, is maybe like a cool concept, but for some reason this story really didn't grip me that much. Maybe it was because I wasn't really interested in the main protagonist. I wasn't that interested in her story. Does it make sense, the things that she does? I don't really remember what her initial incentive is. This reverse storyline thing was just like something unique. I don't think I've read a book like that before where that happens that way. So that was per se interesting, I guess, though of course you had to very much keep up. You had to very much listen very actively so as not to lose the plot line because things happened in the anti-chronological order. So don't get confused by, wait, this person, aren't they dead? But then it's like, oh no, we're going like backwards. So at this point they're alive again and blah, blah, blah. I don't know if that maybe would trip you out a little bit. Don't read the book. I don't know. Overall, I was just like not that obsessed with the book, with the story. It did not really deliver for me. I didn't really find it that interesting and also not that thrilling. I think this is per se also supposed to be a thriller, but it wasn't that thrilling, not that suspenseful. So I don't know. I just felt very meh about Genuine Fraud. I'm sorry. After that though, I listened to I guess also a mystery thriller, murder mystery, I don't know, which I actually did like quite a lot, and that was Reckless Girls. This was a book of the month pick a couple of months ago, which is how I heard about it, and now I listened to it and I really enjoyed this. This is a secluded island kind of mystery. Our main protagonist and her boyfriend and two girls that hire their boat and their services to bring them to this one island that has a lot of history surrounding it, a lot of mystery and myths that there are like bad things happening there, etc. They all go to this island. Once they reach it, they realize there's also another boat with like an Australian couple there who's just like, they're on holidays, and first the vibes are really chill, really good, but then the vibes deteriorate. Then creepy stuff starts happening, more and more secrets are getting revealed, the dynamics between the characters change quite a lot, and then it culminates in murder. It is a murder mystery. This is not per se a spoiler, I don't think so. And then like another creepy dude shows up and it's like, okay, shit, what do we do now? So I guess the story maybe starts off somewhat slowly because especially in the beginning, the vibes are still good, everything's still fine. But then as things slowly start to deteriorate, and because we know from the beginning that it's a murder mystery, also know, okay, someone's probably gonna die, so who's it gonna be, what's gonna happen? It was a good time. I thought it was suspenseful. This secluded island setting, it just does the job every time. Like this secluded setting where no one else can get you and you can't really get away. It just does the job, honestly. That's just like a very good setting for murder mysteries or thrillers, because setting like that just like naturally, you as a human being freaks you out, I believe. So Reckless Girls, I actually really enjoyed. And now the last audiobook I listened to, another romance, was Well Met. This is a romance taking place around the setting of a Renaissance fair. Now you might be wondering, what the hell is a Renaissance fair? Because I was somewhat wondering the same thing once I headed into this. Do you know Colonial Williamsburg? It's kind of like that, only of course it's about a different time period, And whereas Colonial Williamsburg is like an actual institution, this is only something they do over one summer. But they do the same thing, as in they dress up in clothes of their time, and they speak the way they used to speak back then, and they all get history lessons so they know the, well, trivia of their time, and then they have to play characters and be in character during this Renaissance fair. Now this is a enemies to lovers kind of romance, because our main protagonist and the main organizer of this Renaissance fair, they clash. They clash a lot because he's very serious about everything, and like he takes this very seriously, whereas she's actually just around to help her niece out, and she's not really interested in it. She's not really invested in any of this, so she takes it really chill. She takes it really like with a grain of salt, and he doesn't appreciate that. So these two clash in their like normal lives while they're still like organizing everything. But then while the fair's on and they're both in characters, suddenly they're all flirty, suddenly sparks are flying, suddenly the vibes are very much there. And of course that really confuses her, because like this is written out of her perspective, like, oh, okay, do I like him now? What is going on? Is this only part of our characters, or does she actually develop these feelings for him? That's basically the plot of this book. I had a good time with it. I enjoyed it. It was cute. It was well paced. I liked the chemistry. Per se, the setting might be not up my alley. Like I would personally not participate in a Renaissance fair like that, but I appreciate it for being, well, a different setting. This was not just like another workplace enemies to lovers or something like that. This was a Renaissance fair enemies to lovers. So if you're looking for something like that, maybe you're into Renaissance fairs in your actual life, hell, you would have a really good time with this, I believe. Now, last but not least, a book I have already started reading. I'm not yet done, and I do plan to make another video about this. I have started another Agatha Christie. I hope to be able to make a video about this, as in me trying to solve it as I'm reading it, before I have to move out in, what is it, 5 or 6 days. I'm kind of pressed for time. I hope I can still manage to do that. But yeah, keep an eye out for this video. I mean, by the time I upload this video should already be uploaded. So if I have actually managed to make this video, I will link it somewhere here above. But here, there you go. I am working on it. Fingers crossed for me. Anyway, so these are all the books I read/listened to in the first 2 weeks of August. Now, I can already give you like a little, I mean, this is already a sneak peek of sorts because I'm not yet done with the book, but I might be able to make a video about it. Other books I still per se plan to read this month are, as I just said, I really hope to be reading Love on the Brain. That's what Ellie Hazelwood's newest release is called. I also still have this book lying around, The Disaster Tourist. I hope to still read that while I'm here, because I don't really plan on taking it with me once I move. I might, by the way, also make another video about that, like which books am I going to take with me when I move. And if I make a video like that, it's probably also already up. So again, it will be linked up here, down there, etc. So yeah, I hope I will still get to read this in the few days that I'm still there. There's also like a book for uni I will have to read to prepare myself for this one class. Usually I don't talk about uni reads here at all, only if I read like an entire book, because like often for uni, you're only asked to read like certain chapters or like excerpts or something like that. But in this case, I will probably read this entire book about modern Korean history, and that's like 200-300 pages long, so maybe I will not really get around to reading much more except this history book, The Disaster Tourist, this one, and Ellie Hazelwood's book. If that's the case, I will probably not make like a second August reading wrap-up video, but I will only probably make like a dedicated video for Love on the Brain. At least I hope I will have enough to say about it to make an entire video about it. But guys, I'm really looking forward to the book. What can I say? Anyway, so that was my first, or like my entire, I don't know, August reading wrap up. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope there was something in here for you, and I'm gonna see you the next time. Bye.